we have everything going. Cool, awesome. So this is the second panel for the Polaris Launchpad event. The third, if you include the, sorry about that. The third, if you include the kickoff calls. So today we're really lucky to have diverse panelists of NFT projects, marketplaces, and gaming projects as well. I'm Dylan Grabowski, a writer and editor for Neo News Today, also the host of the Neo News Today podcast. So a lot of the Neo community knows who I am. So before we hop into this event, I want to thank Sam over at Neo Global Development for staying up late to make sure that the live stream can go off without a hitch. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists. We'll go one at a time and I'll prompt each individual to participate. So let's start with Sky. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what your project is?
Yes, hello, thank you, Dylan. I'm Sky and I am the founder of SkyHut. It's basically an NFT marketplace working on the Neo blockchain, and we are using the Neo FS. So I believe we were the first marketplace to use Neo FS and allow users to upload their work and save it on a decentralized storage network. But yeah, I have quite a couple, I have like 5-6 years of back programming development behind me. So I'm a developer myself, and yeah, that was a little bit about me. Thanks.
Cool, thanks for introducing us. Next, we'll hear a little bit about who you are, Michael, and what your project is about.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dylan. I am Michael. I am the founder of Rentfuse. That is an NFT renting protocol that I'm building with my team on the Neo blockchain. Our main goal is to give utility to NFTs and to bring the sharing economy on the blockchain. I'm a software engineer, a maker. I like to build stuff, and for this reason, I started the last hackathon, the Frontier Launchpad, and it was a great experience. And I hope a lot of new developers will come with this new hackathon. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. So the next person we're going to be introducing is also a fellow alumni of the previous hackathon. So Jason, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what HumSwap is?
Sure. Thank you, Dylan. So I'm Jason. I'm from HumSwap. So our project really is a mixture, NFT and DeFi. We really look to build interesting UI, UX experiences on the blockchain and bring innovation from both NFT and DeFi perspectives. Yeah, I've been in the blockchain space for a while. I started in Ethereum. I've done a lot of Ethereum Solidity work. But yeah, here building a lot on Neo. Love the platform and excited for this talk today.
Cool. I'd like to ask Vincent, our next guest, to tell us a little bit about who he is and what his project's about.
Hey, Dylan. Yes, so I'm Vincent. I'm a Ghost Market founder and CEO. I've been in the space for I'd say 5 to 6 years. I've always been a very big fan of Neo. I was mostly working on Neo side project at first. And since the past 2 years, my main focus is NFT. And so our platform is a blockchain agnostic NFT marketplace. And one of the chain we support being Neo. And a lot of stuff to be done here, but a very exciting time,
Absolutely. And for our last participant today, I'm excited to introduce Ace. I think your project is the newest project to the Neo ecosystem. A lot of the previous guests we introduced have been here for years or just recently joined the ecosystem within the past year. So Ace, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and introduce the Neo community to what your project is all about?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dylan. First of all, for having me. It's really great to sort of join your community and interact with other companies that are building on Neo. So my name is Ace. I'm one of the founders of Ufo Gaming. We are basically a blockchain gaming platform. We're building our own game, which is Super Galactic, which we're going to be releasing very, very soon. But we're also developing a whole metaverse ecosystem, which we're calling the Dark Metaverse. And this is going to be multi-chain. So you'll be able to play different games on different chains, jump from planet to planet with your friends. So we're really excited to be working on something like that. And we've got a few other sort of aspects that we're working on in the kind of NFT side of things as well.
Very cool. So great to be able to chat with all of you, and thank you very much for your brief introductions. I'm looking forward to a very fruitful discussion with various different participants and developers who are contributing to the NFT and Metaverse space. So the format for this event is we're going to have a handful of questions that have been predetermined, and then at the end of the event, we'll do our best to sift through various social media channels to address all the questions that community members from each of your communities have asked, and in the YouTube chat as well. So for the first question, I think we want to kind of just address the initial logic behind what NFTs represented. When NFTs first came about, they were representations of art. So I think maybe we want to differentiate between the differences between what is simply just digital art, and then what does NFT-based art mean for the ecosystem and for artists who choose to build their artwork into an NFT. I'll let anybody jump first.
Well, I start. Okay, so in my opinion, the main difference between digital art and NFT-based art is mainly related to the proof of ownership that is difference between the two kind of things. So in my opinion, with NFT-based art, you can have a real control over the ownership of your art, and you can enable really interesting use cases for your art. I imagine due to the fact that NFT can be handled and managed through smart contract, you can, maybe you are an artist and you want to enable some interesting concept for your user, and you can do it. You can just develop your smart contract or let someone develop it, and really make it interactive directly on chain, and with the proof of the ownership of what you've done, basically.
Yeah, to add to that, a lot of people quite often think NFT are just about preventing piracy and whatnot, but it's not that. It's literally just about proving ownership, and being able to say, I know for sure this guy owns this piece. It's not about preventing sharing a digital image, because that's not what an NFT is. It's purely about traceability and seeing where an NFT was moved from where to where, etc. So there's often a confusion, but like was said, I think the most important thing is about tying use case to this digital aspect.
Yeah, just like I mentioned, like NFTs and digital art are basically the same thing, except for like the tokenization, when you create a token with the NFT and then you prove your ownership by transferring or just owning that piece. So it's mostly the tokenization part, which I believe is the difference, the main difference.
So kind of, drawing on this theme, Sky, I'll first ask you this. You built an NFT marketplace that is exclusive to the Neo ecosystem. So you've been collaborating and coordinating with artists that are launching their NFTs that have been, kind of born and raised within the Neo ecosystem, so to say. So what are some of the conversations that you're having with folks who are launching maybe their first NFT series, or maybe other folks like Somnium Wave who have had multiple NFT series? What are the sort of considerations that they're kind of bringing to the table when they want to launch their series on your platform?
Oh God, that was quite a difficult question.
Maybe let me
I
just break
haven't-
it down easier. What are our artists talking to you about when they want to launch their NFT series? What are the things that they're concerned about?
Well, it's mostly, if you say it like that, like it's mostly they want to make sure that the process is like artists that come in don't really understand how to create a contract or how to set up everything, like how to token, how to create the NFT. So it's just guiding them through the process of what they need to do and how they need to do it, and the different ways that you can actually do it. Especially, sorry.
No, I was just gonna kind of like add on to that. You know, the SkyHut marketplace is built with Neo FS in the back end. So is that also
Correct.
a consideration that your artists have? Are they concerned about centralized storage servers, or is a decentralized storage network something they're really interested in?
I have gotten that question actually, like what is the difference between them? Like, and for decentralized, like it's especially Neo FS, like you can't modify it. Like once the piece is up there, it's very hard to modify it. It's very hard for someone else to just play with it. When it's up there, it's up there. But sure, you can still download it and create a copy of it. But the original one will be tied to the NFT that you created. And then we have the IPFS, I believe it's called, where NFTs can be, or the image can be removed. So there's nothing, once the image is removed, like your NFT is basically worthless. Like the whole part of the NFT is like the image. And I have seen cases where the images have been removed, or the images have actually been replaced with something else. So it's quite important with the decentralized aspect of making sure once you create something, it's not you're not supposed to modify. It's not modifiable, if that's a word.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another person that I want to bring into this conversation is Vincent. Ghost Market is a cross-chain NFT marketplace. So you might be collaborating with various different artists who've been introduced to blockchain from various ecosystems. I remember in 2021 last year, Ghost Market helped create an opportunity for Kevin Smith to launch the rights to one of his independent films, and Ghost Market helped build that platform for them. So can you share a little bit of insight into the sort of conversations that you have with artists and maybe some of their concerns or things that get them excited?
Yeah, sure. Like was said, I think there are two considerations here. First is the image itself, which in a perfect world should be immutable. Whether you're using IPFS or NeoFS, you can't modify it. That's a decentralized platform. NeoFS has some advantage, and it's native to Neo, of course. But at the end of the day, it does the same thing. The second important consideration would be metadata, and this, depending which blockchain and which NFT standard you use, there are different considerations. Neo standard is very flexible when it comes to NFT metadata, allows you to actually store most on-chain directly, and don't even have to rely on centralized service. Most Ethereum NFT can do that for cost reason. That's one of the big advantage of Neo. You can technically store 100% of your metadata directly on chain, and with a mix of NeoFS for image, obviously. So anyway, I think since recently, a lot of artists are trying to, there are dozens and dozens of millions of NFT out there, and people are realizing that at the end of the day, it's a very big database, and you need to conform with standard, and you need to have proper metadata. I'm not talking about the technical side of things, but people are realizing there needs to be something people conform to be able to easily browse across this huge mass of NFT coming up our way in the next few years. And all the tools and platform should work together to implement those standards, because if not, we will end up with silos and with tons of standard, and especially when it comes to metadata, there are subtle differences depending how you do it, and it has to be tailored and made for the end user, so that at the end of the day, it's easy to browse what you're looking for,
Absolutely, thanks for that. Before we jump to the next topic, both Jason and Ace are building projects that utilize NFTs in a unique way. So I'm going to ask the same question of both of them, but I'll ask Jason first. The artists you're collaborating with for the various NFTs, the ants, the bulls, the lucky tigers, are you finding that these artists that are building this artwork for you, are they traditionally digital media artists, or are they individuals who have started putting their art into a digital format because of NFTs and what NFTs can offer them?
Yeah, for the most part, I think all of the artists that I've spoken with, the vast majority of them have either had some interaction with several people that have been requesting some type of work or some type of process from them for a blockchain type of project, or they have already done it. So I really think that the current NFT space and art in general, they have meshed pretty well, and I think it's really penetrated effectively into the art space, just because, or at least with artists, because just the vast majority of them have already done some type of work in this space. But that's just really my experience, reaching out and working with artists. So it hasn't been too heavy of an onboarding experience from my end, just because they have already had that type of experience. But granted, I still think that there is a large portion of the art world and artists that have not. Maybe it just so happens that the people I reach out to, I've had a lot of luck in that sense, maybe.
Thanks. And before we hop to the next topic, Ace, I noticed that your team has a lot of experience in the gaming industry. So maybe some of the artists you're collaborating with are probably well-versed in creating digital art. Are you finding that the artists you collaborate with are mostly from the vast experience that your team has in the gaming industry, or are you seeing new artists who are exploring digital art for the first time because of NFTs? Could you just share a little bit about the types of artists you collaborate with?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, Dylan. From our side, I think that we predominantly, for our NFTs, we work with artists as well as designers, and a lot of them are, game designers that are creating the NFTs for us to be able to use within the games themselves. So I think on most of the things that we're working on at the moment, the artistic element, I would say, often comes secondary to the actual game design aspect of it itself. But the artists that we've been working with, to be honest with you, a lot of them for the game side of things just come from a gaming as well as art design background. And we, the way that we position ourselves is kind of, helping basically bridge traditional games, traditional designers and artists to the blockchain. So we're actually, doing the blockchain side of things and guiding them through it, whereas they have extensive, experience and knowledge on the, design and art, digital art, especially side of things.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I imagine this conversation will sound a lot different in the coming 1 to 5 years as NFTs become more ingrained in the mainstream and more artists can realize there are different ways that they can interact with their fans and new fans by creating these NFTs that individuals can purchase directly from them. So unless there's any other insights that anyone wants to offer about the differences between traditional digital art and NFT-based artwork, then I'll jump to the next topic. Cool. So NFTs are a brand new concept in the grand scheme of things when we talk about cryptocurrencies and blockchains. They've been around for a handful of years. In 2017, Ethereum kitties CryptoKitties clogged the Ethereum network. And that was really the first time I remember NFTs jumping to the mainstream and kind of becoming a part of the forefront conversation. However, in an industry that's only 13 years old, that's a little bit less than half the time that NFTs have been around. So we're still seeing this burgeoning use cases for NFTs, especially in the past 2 years, when they really started, scratching the surface of traditional financial outlets and traditional media. So this question is a very open-ended question. What are the potential use cases for NFTs? We're on the call with gaming projects, with DeFi projects, with marketplaces. So you guys see a lot of potential use cases from the ground. So I think other than an avenue for artwork, what are some potential utility NFTs can offer? And I'd like to ask Jason to kick off this section because HumSwap is really looking at using and utilizing NFTs in a unique way when it comes to DeFi. So can you just tell us some potential use cases for NFTs?
Sure. Yeah, I think we really try to explore what we can innovate with and really push the boundaries from a use case perspective. NFTs in general, I think just moving forward, we're going to see a lot of interesting things happening, from fractionalized art to ticketing to NFTs being used as financial instruments. There's just a lot, I think, in the future that we'll see more of. At least from our perspective, we've tried to bring different types of innovation to Neo. So, for example, with Ants, we're tokenizing the royalty aspect. That also ties into what Vincent was talking about. He spearheaded the on-chain royalty standard for Neo, but fractionalizing and tokenizing that royalty aspect is very unique. And I think we'll see a lot more use cases like that bring unique angles. From a DeFi perspective, I mean, really, there is no limit. If, for example, we're talking about bulls, we could do interesting things that tie into whatever other DeFi products that we're going to launch. So if we're talking about staking or even reducing swap fees, the NFTs themselves can be references and hold this type of bonus behavior as it pertains to the DeFi product and DeFi aspects. So I guess in short, I think we're going to see a lot of unique things in the future, and I don't think we even really know what they will be moving forward.
Yeah, and I'd like to ping Vincent to jump in since you were just mentioned. Can you tell us a little bit about the royalty fees that Jason was just talking about, and maybe some other unique avenues and use cases for NFTs that you've seen in collaborating with various projects and developers across multiple chains?
Yeah, sure. It's a good question. And so it's one thing I saw on other blockchain, it's usually a pain to deal with royalties in a cross-chain project, The way it works most of the time on other blockchain is that royalties are project specific. You're selling on marketplace A, and if you sell elsewhere, there's no way to tie your original royalty to a sale somewhere else, which is very shitty at the end of the day for the artist involved, because that's what a royalty is. It should be honored, or at least it should be tried to be honored most of the time, And so we worked on Neo to deploy our own version of platform agnostic royalty system, which I think works well, even though it's not a standard or whatnot. A few people have started using it. Swap, I think Skyhut was also working on it. And I think moving forward, we might put a proposal or something, just so that it's more standard and other projects might understand better what it entails, But anyway, it's a very large discussion. Royalties across cross-platform project, but I think it should be an integral part of NFT, because that's one of the best use case, being able to track and show ownership, as well as honor payments to whoever is due something,
Absolutely. And if at any point in the conversation anybody wants to jump in, just feel free to do so. But I have no qualms with picking your brains as we go along. So I think kind of leaning into interesting use cases for NFTs, Rentfuse is doing something that's really interesting, which is creating the opportunity for an individual to maintain custody and ownership over their NFT, though they can lease it to somebody else. So Michael, I know we've talked about this in the past, what inspired you to create Rentfuse. So maybe you can tell us, what was the initial inspiration when it came to gaming in particular, why you decided to build Rentfuse, and then maybe what are some other use cases you've begun to envision in the past 9 months that you've been working on Rentfuse?
Yes, well, I was and I am a gamer. I played for a long time on World of Warcraft, for example, and I remember that sometime you had to find to fight really difficult bosses in order to gain some wonderful weapon that at the end were just in the game. So my first thought was, well, okay, there exist some marketplaces for selling, buying NFTs, but I seen nothing regarding the renting part of these NFTs. So my first thought was, well, let's build something upon it. On the gaming side, it would be really interesting because, of course, you can imagine that if you have to fight a really difficult or legendary boss, I imagine a difficult trade, you can just rent a very powerful weapon, use it to fight the boss, win the best loot ever, and give back the legendary weapon. This would be a use case. Or when you participate to some particular contest, you can rent a legendary skin, and that's that just an examples on the gaming side. But I think that one thing that will make also NFT grow more and more and more, and some use cases that came in my mind when thinking about real life use cases are related to bridging the gap between the real life and the let's say digital life. So the idea is that NFTs can be used also to represent some physical items. One of the things that came in my mind is a contract for an example. A transport company has to transport medicinals that needs to stay to some temperature for the whole travel. Okay, maybe you can create a box that is at the end an NFT, is connected to the blockchain, and with the temperature probe can check constantly the temperature of the gods that are inside him. When, due to the fact that he's connected to a smart contract, as soon as the temperature drops below some threshold, it can automatically trigger some kind of collaterals going, some kind of, let's say, warranty going, and prevent something from happening. So I think that there are a lot of real life use cases that can be enabled with NFTs when we bridge this gap. And with the use of IoT, we can also bridge this. And this would be really awesome.
That's a really interesting concept. And you know, and speaking in the past, you've mentioned other ways that real world assets can integrate the borrowing and leasing of NFTs. So it's cool to hear this kind of new concept that you've stumbled upon when it comes to potential medical purposes. I don't want to be a neo shill here or anything like that, but I haven't really come across any other projects that are working on NFT renting projects or protocols in various other ecosystems. So I'm just wondering if you're aware if there are any other individuals or projects or dApps that are also working on renting protocols, maybe in other blockchain ecosystems.
Yeah, I've explored the blockchain world, searching for other protocols regarding this. And what I found was mainly something on Ethereum where you can do some kind of escrow renting. So a renting where you really change the ownership of the NFT. I didn't find anything when you kind of have an NFT renting that is ownership safe. My answer to this on Ethereum, I mean, that would be for Ethereum's fees maybe, or something related to the fees. On Neo, this is possible because also the fees are really low. So because obviously the most transaction you do, the more operation on chain you do, the more you can pay on as a transaction level. So something is present on some chain, but I think that this is still a really new field to grow upon.
Absolutely.
And we are really excited about that.
Yeah, and for the first time in a long time, the GUI on Ethereum was quite low earlier in the week, a few days ago. So it was nice to be able to participate on that network and take care of a lot of different things that I'm sure Ethereum ecosystem members and users have been waiting a while until gas fees were more manageable. So I think that participating on a blockchain network that has more reliable fees that are consistently lower is potentially something that might attract a project when they're exploring which blockchain to operate on top of. Now, I do want to ask you, Ace, what are some potential use cases for NFTs in gaming that you're exploring? The game you're talking about is going to have a metaverse. So like we could be talking about land or parcels that represent an NFT or characters or items. So what are the use cases for NFTs that you're seeing as you build out the UFO token and the game that your team is working on?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Dylan. NFTs play, a key role within our games as well as our ecosystem, as well as the metaverse. I think one of the most exciting things about it that, as a gamer myself as well, Michael, it's really interesting to kind of hear your take on things. A lot of the same kind of thoughts, to be honest, went through my mind. I went through a very similar process to yourself. I think the fact that you can, level up certain weapons or armor, you're like just grinding, trying to level up your, fire sword up to level 99. And then when you finish playing the game, it just stays in that game. If you don't pick it up again, the fact that you can take that weapon now, if it's an NFT, you can potentially, and this is something that we really do want to look at building in future, potentially being able to like take your level 99 fire sword that you've leveled up, being able to take it into different games, being able to use it in different games, being able to showcase it within your metaverse. Let's say, you guys were, you know, coming over to my land plot or my house in the metaverse, in the, you know, UFO one, or any other metaverse, for example, you know, being able to showcase my level 99 fire sword for you guys, you know, would be super exciting, I think, to any gamer, really. So that element of it is very, very important. And the land ownership aspect is another very interesting point. The fact that you can, you know, own that land, you can customize it within the metaverse. One really interesting thing that we're building at the moment is, you know, income generating NFTs as well, which I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with. You know, what we want to do is have anyone that owns land within our metaverse basically get a, you know, proportion share of the income that's generated in the ecosystem itself. So just by owning and holding the land in your wallet, you're going to be able to basically generate income through that NFT, and be a part of that ecosystem. And I think that this plays a really important role, especially because, you know, we're really moving towards and striving for a kind of, you know, DAO, you know, operating system. So in that sense, I think it makes a lot of sense, and giving people voting rights as well, based on them holding, you know, a certain NFT, owning a bit of land, being able to vote on, you know, what game, let's say Ufo Gaming release next, for example, right? Or what decision a specific company makes because you hold a certain NFT. So there's really endless use cases for NFTs. And, you know, it has our whole team very, very excited, and we're really quite open-minded to different ideas as well. And we're just excited to see what the future holds. You know, we're just getting started.
Absolutely. And I just kind of want to pile on to that. Those are really interesting use cases. It's awesome to start hearing about governance and DAOs and how NFTs can be used to help people participate in the direction of a network or a project. Now, your project is one of the most recent entrants into the Neo ecosystem. I'm imagining that you're going to be multi-chain, not just Neo, not just Ethereum, but what are some of the considerations that your project takes into mind when looking for which blockchain to operate on top of? You know, you can have one network that has cheap fees, but you can also have another network that has this network effect. So what's kind of like the pros and cons of when you're looking for different blockchains to build on top of and integrate with?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think that, you know, efficiency is, of course, very important, making sure it's really low fees. You know, our primary token, UFO, you know, we launched on, you know, Ethereum, and obviously the gas fees are just crazy there for us to be able to build a game. So our first game, we are going to be releasing on Polygon, but because of those lower fees, for example. But key things that play a part, apart from obviously lower fees, you know, efficiency, are things like, you know, what companies are, you know, within that space, you know, on that chain itself, that we could potentially collaborate with and work with. I think one interesting point that you guys were, you know, Dylan and Michael, you guys were talking about earlier is, you know, for example, Neo really starting, you know, to almost like pioneer the movement for like renting NFTs, for example, which is, you know, really interesting element for us, because you will need an NFT to play our game, Super Galactic, for example. You'll need to actually purchase an NFT to be able to do that. Therefore, if you can just, rather than, if you can't afford to purchase one, if you can just rent it, and the fact that Neo is so, you know, for this ability to, you know, rent NFTs out, I think that's super exciting. But yeah, partnerships within, you know, what other companies are on that chain is obviously a really crucial element as well for us.
Absolutely. So thanks for kind of delving into what the perspective from, you know, an outside project looking inward and evaluating different blockchains looks like. So I kind of want to round out this question by pulling your ear, Sky. You know, building on NeoFS, and which is a distributed file storage network, which if you're not a native to the Neo ecosystem can be equivalent in some ways to IPFS. What are some of the interesting ways that you're seeing projects who are building on top of NeoFS now with their NFTs? You've collaborated with Neo Candy And when you buy a Neo Candy NFT, individuals also received Candy fungible tokens as a part of that NFT purchase. But maybe what are some of the conversations like behind the scenes of interesting and potential use cases that you're seeing with NFTs, whether it's built on NeoFS or not? I just think that that might bring an interesting perspective that you can bring to the table.
Yeah, sure. Like one thing that we're actually like a group of people, it's like the Wex band, like it's a rock band which is going to bring their own album to Neo and release it as a NFT. So that's pretty cool. I think that's the first album on Neo. They're going to be uploading their work to NeoFS and have their artwork and song, everything on NeoFS, so the user can afterwards just download the song as well, and they can prove their ownership. But they want to release the whole album, so a user can mint the whole album once, and then they have access to all of the songs. So I think that's pretty cool, really cool. And I've also just I read somewhere that Warner Media were actually giving out like comic book NFTs as well, which I thought was pretty cool. I'm not sure where they did it, but I read somewhere that they did it. And then going back to the renting part, I think Kings of Leon were their name, like a rock band. They were selling like NFT tickets, so tickets to their concert, like they're touring, they will have like lifetime front seat rows. So for that part, say they go to a city where you're not able to attend, you can always rent out that ticket to someone else, and they can go visit, get front row seats, and then give it back. So there are a couple of cool use cases out there, or cool stuff that people have done, and use cases there to come.
Yeah, that's really cool, and it's interesting that you're mentioning a lot of the music use cases. I think before, I don't want to get too like bogged down into a single specific project, but Wexford is a garage band that is based out of a state in a United States state, Ohio. And I'm just wondering, how did they reach out to you, or how did they land on wanting to launch their project on the Neo blockchain?
Well, a funny thing is they actually just asked around the Neo Discord channel for some help in how to get started or what to do. I believe they reached out to Vincent first, but he was unavailable, or he had quite a bit to do. So they just asked around and hoping to get someone to help them out. And I was around at that time and contacted them, and then we got something out there. So
awesome. Thanks for sharing a little bit more insight into that. I'm excited to see the first whole album be released via the Sky Hut marketplace. So jumping to the next topic, in your opinion, this question is so loaded because the metaverse is something that I think a lot of people understand what it is when they see it. There's a long history of 3D worlds that people can participate in. We're talking with a lot of gamers on this stream right now. So, one person's definition of the metaverse might be different from another person's definition. So I think I want to pull on Vincent's ear because you're collaborating with so many different blockchains, and you're collaborating with so many different teams that maybe you're hearing a variety of different definitions for what the metaverse is. So Vincent, what is the metaverse, and what role does it have in this space moving forward?
Personally, I think the metaverse is some kind of aggregator of all NFT related things, whether it's about owning virtual land and running some kind of virtual events on these virtual lands and whatnot, and being able to display and or use your NFT in this metaverse, you know. At least to me, that's something, that's some kind of aggregator, you know. You basically plug all the different use case of NFT in something big. That's why it's, like you said, it's the definition, it's a lot of things, but I think it's about interoperability between multiple projects. At least that's how I think it should be, you know. And yes, I'm very excited to see everything metaverse related and Neo. I hope it will help bring the ecosystem, you know, one step further, and also helps project working together, because it's not about what a project does best. It's about how project can work together, you know. One project can do everything. It's just not possible. And we still haven't found most of the use case related to NFT. I'm pretty sure some very new cool use case will be found in the next few years, you know. And tying this to an existing metaverse project would be awesome, you know. Maybe later we figure out something to do with, I don't know, environment or space or whatever. And adding this to an existing metaverse is just about, you know, you add a use case, but you also add use case to other project existing use case, you know. So it's tying up everything together.
Yeah, and I kind of want to pull on, or if you were going to say something, Sky, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry if that's okay. Like I just mentioned, like I believe if you guys have seen the Ready Player One movie, like if anyone has seen, like that's basically the metaverse in my opinion. Like I really like that movie, especially like in game you could buy, or the main character bought like a suit, and he just got that delivered home, and he could feel, and once put it on, he could feel anything in that metaverse or that game he was playing. But a little bit of like where it's going towards, and like it can do basically anything anything except for eating or drinking or taking care of ourselves. Like we could do anything on the metaverse. For example, something I'm looking at in the future, or looking at which will be added to Sky later, is the fact that you can have like live auctions. So you can create like set up a location and then just have people joining in randomly, taking a seat, and then just making a bid on a specific NFT or a specific artwork, and then the winner takes it. And then you can have a couple of them set up like that. But yeah, I believe you can do anything from shopping, maybe going to the movies, concerts, business meetings, or just friends, maybe even doctor appointment that don't require a physical examination. So just like there's a lot of opportunities out there, which I think actually is really cool and love to see.
Yeah, I think I'd like to add on that. Vincent alluded to interop, and I think interop even between the real world. So Pokemon Go was a really good example. Like you're going out, you're going to a park. Everyone is, you know, in the physical world and in their own digital world, really playing a new game. So I think we'll see these type of experiences. You can even imagine from a clothing and apparel type of angle where you get to see what new shoes look like, you know, walk around and see what they look like on, you know, yourself, all in the digital world. So I really think there's a lot of opportunity just for many different companies, even outside of the blockchain space, to have a piece in the metaverse.
Yeah, it is kind of, as others are saying, is kind of a really, really interesting. And in my opinion is, I imagine it like, I don't know if some of you know Doctor Who, but I imagine it like the inside of the TARDIS. So it's kind of a way to enlarge our dimension. It's kind of, we are building a new dimension, a digital dimension. So we are building something that is extending our way to interact, to communicate. I give you an example. I have a VR, for example. I'm in the metaverse. I want to go see something. I can teleport, let's say, to something. That is something that I can't do in real life. So for that reason, I think that it can enlarge our dimension and give a shape to our imagination.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that as we go forward in time, there's going to be a lot of interesting ways in which traditional entities start to integrate the metaverse. Sky, I thought it was really interesting how you touched upon the medical field. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and somebody floated the idea of less medical facilities moving forward, where obviously you'll still need to go to like a hospital for surgery or something like that. But if you need to get blood work done, then maybe you can have an individual drive to your house who's qualified to take your blood and then bring it to a facility that can study that. Also, we're starting to see the metaverse spring up in other industries like real estate. My brother-in-law was showing me that one of the companies he works with is creating a metaverse for people to walk around in when they're on hold. So these are really kind of like interesting ways that we're bringing non-gamers into 3D environments. But I do want to pull your ear, Ace, because you're working on a game, Super Galactic, that is creating this world that people are going to interact in. So what are some of the considerations that you have to take into mind when you're building out this world, and what the kind of various different outliers for what the metaverse actually represents are?
I think for us, we did a lot of planning initially before, getting going with the build out of the metaverse. And I think what we wanted to do was ensure that we make it as accessible as possible. We didn't want like high barriers to entry. We didn't want it to be complicated. We wanted everyone on any device to be able to, jump in and get in a very accessible manner. So, what we try to do is, not have to have an area that you have to necessarily do a whole sign up, give a lot of information. You could just jump in and get started immediately. But we also wanted to make it, as interesting and exciting for the users as possible. Obviously, as a gaming platform, we wanted to integrate games into the metaverse, as much as we can. But at the same time, I think, it's for us, because we're a community-owned project. We really kept that at the heart of the metaverse. So for us, it was all about realizing how our community members and just individuals and their friends going to experience certain things, rather than trying to map it out from like an individual's perspective. We realized that it'd be like groups of friends or members of the community going in together. Interestingly enough, we have, I think, around 80% of our weekly team calls in our metaverse at the moment, which works out really well. I think we're enjoying it a little bit too much. To be honest, it's easy to get distracted. But I think just creating this world where you can jump in with your friends, you can watch videos together, watch Twitch streams, play games together, talk about whatever you want to talk about, Game of Thrones, and be able to showcase your NFTs to your friends. I think for us it's not as relevant, but what I've seen in a lot of metaverses is what the guys were talking about earlier, which is also real life objects having an NFT counterpart. So if you buy a pair of, let's say, Gucci shoes, for example, that's like a rare edition. There's only 20 of them. You might also get that as an NFT that you can also have in the metaverse. I do think that is the future, because I think that humans naturally do like to, show off what they have and be proud of having certain objects. And I think NFTs do allow them to do that on the widest, largest scale possible, because there's an unlimited potential of people that can see your shoes that you've just bought that you're really excited about, as opposed to just people that walk past you and might go, yeah, nice shoes. Whereas in the metaverse, hundreds or thousands of people can see your NFT items. So yeah, I think there's just unlimited potential for that. And we're really considering it. We're also learning a lot from other projects as well, seeing how everyone else is also doing it, trying to take some inspiration from Sandbox, for example, taking some inspiration from Decentraland. But yeah, I mean, it's been a very exciting thing for us to work on, and just being able to do our team meetings on there has helped a lot, to be honest. It's got everyone, no one's late to them now.
That's really interesting that you bring up shoes specifically. I'm based out of Colorado, and ETH Denver was here a couple weeks ago, and I won an NFT at a Thorchain meetup, and I got to mint the NFT and then convert it into a pair of shoes that are going to be shipped to me. So it's really interesting to start seeing the unique ways that individuals, projects, dApps, entities can start to digitalize the assets, whether they're fungible or non-fungible, and then create a way to merge that into a real world item. And I think that this is going to lean into our fourth and final topic. And if not, then we'll maybe not. Yeah. So I thought that initially we were going to talk about the real world aspects in which NFTs can be, like a commingling, but we'll pull on this topic. So the question is, what are advancements that are necessary in metaverse and NFT technology to encourage mass adoption? A lot of us here are crypto native, we're internet native, we're gamers. We've been using computers our whole life, but my mom can't tell me what an NFT is or what the difference between Bitcoin and an NFT is. So there's a lot of steps between where we're at today and where we're at in the future when everybody is using NFTs and everybody's participating in a metaverse. So I think I'll pull on Michael first, because you've explored a lot of these ways in which real world assets and real world items can interact with the digital world. So in your perspective, what is needed to make the metaverse or NFT technology reach mainstream adoption?
Well, in my opinion, is like of a kind of an economical thing. Is like supply and demand. So mass adoption is encouraged, and people start using NFT if they can do something with that NFTs. So what I imagine is that, for example, some brands are starting to enter the world of NFTs and say, okay, if you have this NFT and you come here to my shop and buy something, you get a 10% discount. So people will start, maybe these are large brands like Burger King, McDonald's, whatever, are these big fast food brands. And then people start to say, okay, what are the NFTs? I can get some discount and whatever, and they can start approaching that stuff. And then these can lead to bigger stuff. They can discover this new world and then enter the metaverse, try different stuff and so on. But for sure, something like there is the need of some demand of this technology. Otherwise, it's just a collection.
Absolutely, that's a really good point. That it's kind of like a chicken or the egg. Do big industries get involved in NFTs first, or do NFTs create use cases that big industries can kind of identify how they can use them? I love the food and fast food topic that you just brought up. I was speaking with a friend the other day who's building an application and they want to utilize NFTs through partnerships with real world businesses, where if people download their application and win an NFT by participating in processes, then maybe they can receive a discount with partnering local retail businesses. I think I also want to ask you, Sky, what do you see as an advancement that's needed in NFT technology for users of your platform, or maybe even in real life conversations you've had with people who don't use blockchain? What are some of the things that is missing and needs to kind of be the gaps that need to be filled in order to bring NFTs to the mainstream?
That's actually a good question, but it just needs to make it easier for people. I've actually heard conversations around me are just people talking about Bitcoin, and half of them don't even know what it is, and the other half have an idea, and there's one who's knows everything about it. But some people just don't understand how NFTs work or what it is. They just need to be made. It just needs to be made easy. Like, some people don't understand how algorithms in Google Maps work, but they just follow the directions that it gives you. So it's just information is needed, basically. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's real interesting. Everybody, when you go on crypto Twitter, you see a lot of infighting amongst the blockchain and crypto community against things like consensus mechanisms and token distributions and levels of decentralization. And a lot of folks that are highly educated in this space have a lot of very strong opinions, but at the end of the day, the average user that uses the internet knows nothing about TCP/IP or anything about the protocols that power the ability for an email to be sent. So that's definitely a topic that I think people need to keep in mind as we start talking about, like, what does it take for mainstream adoption? Vincent, you work with so many different projects from multiple different chains, and you work with so many different protocols. So I maybe would like to hear a little bit from your perspective. What are the things that are missing from either NFTs or the metaverse becoming part of the mainstream world?
I would comment mostly on one thing I think is missing on Neo. Currently, I'll try to make it not too technical, but currently the way we deal with NFT on Neo is fully on chain. Any smart contract who wants to use an NFT, the NFT is kind of locked in the smart contract, and it's technically the best way to do it. It's the most secure way, but it will give issues for sure when we end up with hundreds of dApps. What it creates is silos of individual NFTs spread onto multiple dApps. And of course, it's secure, but it's also not scalable. I would love to move away to a hybrid model where it's more about signing message. This is how Ethereum does it. Basically, you sign message and you're not signing transactions. You're only actually signing transaction when the NFT really needs to be moved. I think this is something should work on. We are actually working on a few proposals on our end in that regards. Because the way I see it, what's going to happen is later when you have hundreds of dApps, you want to sell your NFT on one place, it's locked on this contract, and you can do anything with it until you cancel it. So it's the ultimate and most secure way, but it will cause issues for sure.
Yeah, that's a really good perspective that I hadn't thought of. If I want to sell my NFT, when I put it up for sale, it's no longer in my wallet, but it's locked in a smart contract. Yep. So
the way it works on most other platform is you sign a message saying, I allow this in advance. This is why it's less secure in a sense, you know. But what it gives as an upside is you can use your NFT on multiple places, which we can't for now on Neo. You know, it's tied to one smart contract. You know. Anyway, it's just a personal thought, but we are working on a potential possible solution or improvement, at least in that regard. But it's tricky.
Yeah, things, processes that would take a few days in a centralized environment take many months or even quarters in a decentralized environment. So that's an interesting problem that you've identified and that various people are likely working on. Jason, you have a very interesting background in who your current and hopefully former, soon to be former employer is. But I do want to kind of hear a little bit from your perspective from a large, you know, the individuals that you work around and that's in your network is from a large fintech industry and enterprise. What are some of the things that technological advancements for the metaverse and NFTs are you seeing that are missing for large scale enterprise level widely adopted fintech applications? What do they need for this metaverse and this NFT to become mainstream, or for the users of their platforms and products to adopt them?
I really think it's all about experience. It's all about the user experience and in particular onboarding. So the learning aspect. You know, when Facebook switched to Meta, really nobody understood what they were trying to do, and everyone still probably doesn't, but we're starting to see kind of some of the ideas that they're doing, particularly with Instagram now coming out and doing NFT support and starting that whole integration. So you'll see that ease of onboarding when these larger social networks start to integrate these aspects into their social networks. They're just like Twitter with the profile pictures. So as we see more of this happening, as we see more networks bringing this into their network, like bringing NFTs, bringing blockchain into their networks, that's when we'll start seeing the easier onboarding experiences, the easier way to onboard users, not from just a technical aspect, abstracting the more complicated technical abstracts, but also onboarding them from like a fiat example, onboarding fiat idea. So yeah, I think we're just starting to see the beginnings of this, and I think it'll evolve and just really start rolling over time. But it's very interesting, and I think we're really early. So just the things we will be seeing even within the next 1 to 2 years, I think will really help onboard and to help advance mass adoption, really.
That's a kind of interesting point that you bring up, that there needs to be a sort of like composability of these various silos, that they need to be able to like build as building blocks on top of what other centralized entities are doing to more easily integrate into their already existing platforms and stacks. I think, Ace, I want to round out this final topic asking you, from your perspective as a game developer, you know, what is sort of needed for not only necessarily your platform, but for the gaming industry as a whole to bring NFTs and this whole metaverse concept to life for people that participate in games, whether or not they're even, you know, within a 3D world or playing an online game? What are the sort of missing pieces to get to this point where everybody can be using NFTs in gaming and the metaverse?
I think.
Sorry, I muted you.
Yeah, you did mute me. You did.
That's me.
I think it's all right. It's all right. I think, to be honest, a really good starting point would be just for a lot of people in the gaming industry and some of the larger players to, I think, just start being a little bit more open-minded to the idea of, NFTs and play to earn within gaming, because I genuinely feel, and I think a lot of people do feel, that, it is the future. And the sooner that the larger companies start to adapt to that and start, developing their technology and games to tailor to that, the better. But aside from that aspect, because we're seeing a lot of pushback. We're obviously trying to bridge traditional games onto the blockchain. We're trying to partner with large gaming studios, AAA gaming studios, and say to them, look, we can basically help you create a play to earn model, make your games a lot more exciting, a lot more interesting, take them to a whole new level. And I think a lot of people in gaming are quite old fashioned, because the gaming industry has been in a very similar mindset for quite some time, while there has been some huge drastic changes. I think, just on a more general sense, to answer your question, I think a more flawless UI UX experience for the users, as well as multi-chain. I think what would really help is being able to have that technology in place where the players themselves don't even realize they're using the blockchain. It should just be as easy and accessible as creating your Google account, sending an email, or anything like that. Because at the moment, one of the things that we're finding that just keeps coming up is the catch with the current state of blockchain is that each chain is quite isolated. And because we're trying to build a multi-chain metaverse, this is quite a challenging thing. So I feel as though blockchain needs to evolve to a state of being able to function in separate chains, being able to function one another in one large connected ecosystem. And individuals with little to no knowledge may be able to better understand Web 3.0 using this way as well. And I think the ultimate goal should be to create something that's financially viable as well, as multi-chain, but also a better sort of UI UX experience, so that users really just have the most simple experience.
Yeah, I think Vincent, working on Ghost Market, can empathize with the siloed nature of various blockchains and working to create a project that helps integrate them seamlessly. And the whole topic of revenue models and what blockchain represents with play to earn and how it's disrupting the gaming industry in and of itself could be not just the topic, but we could spend hours on that alone. But I want to thank you guys for going through these topics and helping provide your vast experiences and understandings in the various different projects that you're working on, and how they kind of bring a different element and perspective to the questions that we've gone over. So the final part of this panel session is going to be a Q&A session. I've scanned various different social medias. I have a handful of questions that are generic and also for particular projects in general. So I think the first question that I want to bring up, and this is something that I think folks who have been in the Neo ecosystem can provide a unique perspective, as well as individuals who are new to the Neo ecosystem and projects such as Super Galactic. So just for a little bit of context about Neoverse NFTs, Neoverse NFTs were launched last year to help celebrate the launch of the N3 mainnet, and to spur individuals for wanting to migrate their assets from Neo Legacy to Neo N3 after the massive architectural upgrade. Collector edition NFTs bring a lot of different valuable opportunities and VIP privileges to users who hold them. So I'm wondering, what are some of the ways that your projects are looking to incorporate unique functionality for holders of Neoverse NFT tokens? If at all, is anybody looking at integrating unique functionality for Neoverse NFTs at this time?
Well, I can start since no one is going. Personally, I actually have not thought about the idea yet, but it could be something cool to think about for the future. I did not even think about that, so I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, and for example, Flamingo Finance is a DeFi platform in the Neo ecosystem, and they are integrating functionality where users who hold a Neoverse NFT can earn a certain amount of representation of value. So to participate in an initial DEX offering on Flamingo, users need to stake a certain amount of the reward token for Flamingo, which is FLM. They need to stake a certain amount of FLM in order to participate in a tiered level. So the higher the tier you're in, the more FLM you hold in stake, the more you're able to purchase in an IDO round. So for the more rare Neoverse NFTs, they represent a higher value of FLM. So if I have an N series NFT, that can represent up to $100,000 of equivalent value for staking and tiering in an IDO. But it doesn't sound like right now that there's a lot of planned functionality. So maybe that's something that, as you know, we progress as an ecosystem, that people can keep in mind, because again, the Neoverse NFTs were a project that was launched to celebrate N3. Now, I'm not sure if anybody here can really answer this question, because this is more of a Neo global development question, but has anybody heard of Neo-based NFTs being able to be implemented on our Twitter profiles? And if you don't have an answer for that, what are your perspectives for the ways, like, what do you guys think of, in general, NFTs being represented as somebody's profile picture on Twitter? Does the blockchain need to be a part of the process for showing off your NFTs on social media platforms?
I think it does. I mean, it's the difference between a database and a blockchain. You can modify a database, but you can't alter the blockchain. So when you want to tie, in this case, Twitter profile with your NFT, it's one way to prove it's authentic, you know, as opposed to right-click, copy an image. There's a validation somewhere.
Does anybody else have any insights into how we can integrate NFTs directly from a blockchain level into various different types of social media we participate on a day-to-day basis? Yeah, it's kind of a ubiquitous question and very open-ended. And since none of our projects that are represented on the panel are really dealing with social media, maybe it's not like completely an appropriate question for us to be addressing. So we'll move on. Now, Ace, you can let me know if this is putting you on the spot or not, but as Super Galactic will be building on top of the Neo network, does that mean that community members can potentially expect a NEP 17 version of the UFO token at some point in the near future?
Oh, I think you have definitely put me on the spot there. I think we're in the discussion phase. I think with you guys, we're sort of brainstorming in different ways of collaboration, and I think we are going to be putting out an announcement very, very soon. I think in the next week or two. Delving a little bit deeper about the collaborations between Neo and UFO. So I think that I will save the reveal of that information for the article before before my team sends me abusive messages for sharing too much on here. They've already been messaging me about talking about the metaverse and having our meetings in the metaverse. So just careful about what else I'm revealing on here, I think.
Absolutely. Can you, without, enraging your team, are there any like high level next steps on the roadmap for your project?
Do you mean in terms of, on our project, the Neo, or just our project in general, what we're working on?
Yeah, in general, because this is the first time a lot of the Neo ecosystem is learning about Super Galactic. So, and it seems like you have a very strong community and a lot of people who are engaged. So maybe you could just share a little bit about the next steps that your community is already very well aware of that maybe the Neo community is not.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would be happy to. I think, everyone is kind of anticipating the launch of our staking DApp, which is going to be imminent. And this staking DApp is going to allow people to basically stake their UFO tokens and earn, more UFO tokens as a yield, in addition to plasma points, which they'll be able to use to play the games themselves. So I think a lot of people are waiting for that. After this, of course, the game Super Galactic is going to be launched very, very soon. We're going to give people a kind of playable demo, and go into the beta phase with that. So they'll be able to jump in to the single player. They'll be able to play with their friends, and hopefully we'll get some good feedback on the beta for Super Galactic itself. Obviously, the Metaverse itself, you'll be able to jump in hopefully quite soon with your friends into the Metaverse, experience that. Whether it's with a VR headset or PC or Mac or mobile. Honestly, it doesn't work so well on mobile. I'll have to be honest with you guys. But we want to make the Metaverse experience as exciting and as immersive as possible. Obviously, the NFT marketplace is something that we're building as well. It's going to be released soon, which is where you'll be basically able to trade your UFO gaming NFTs, things like that. But I think the other thing that we're also excited about is developing more games on more chains, and potentially there might be a hint as to what I'm doing on the Neo Neo panel at the moment.
Awesome. Let's see. This is kind of an open-ended question, and I'm not sure if I'm asking it the best, but I'll throw it out there. What are some NFT aggregators out there, like DeFi Llama, for example? What do you think that they bring value to the broader NFT system, ecosystem? Do you think that aggregators really create a way to introduce people to new projects, or just what are your general perspectives on them?
Yeah, I can speak. I think a lot of people are now used to browsing those sites to find new project or ecosystem, and being visible is on these sites is mandatory. It's just the way it is. People take a look at what's available out there, what's the total value logged for DeFi project or even for NFT, and we should help spread the love and help Neo being more visible.
Absolutely. Well, I think that is all the questions I've been able to scour and find from the chat. So thank you, community in the chat, for asking questions and for participating. It was really cool to see a lot of fans of Super Galactic in here chatting. And it was also really cool to see some familiar faces and names from the Neo ecosystem. So with that, I think we'll wrap up this final session, or the second session. I want to thank Michael. I want to thank Jason. I want to thank Sky. I want to thank Ace and Vincent for joining the panel today. NFTs and Metaverse are going to become part of everybody's day-to-day life. And I hope that a year from now, 3 years from now, we get to look back at this conversation and really evaluate, where we were right and in what direction we were heading that was correct, and to also kind of laugh about the things that we hadn't even considered about the NFTs and Metaverse. So thank you so much for everybody for participating. It was an honor to be able to chat with you guys. You're very well-versed in the various different fields and projects you're working on. So thank you so much for joining this panel for the Polaris Launchpad. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Dylan, for having us.
Thank you. It was
Thank
great.
you, Dylan.
Thank you, Dylan.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. The live stream is ending.
Awesome. The live streaming has ended, and are we done recording, Sam?
Yeah, will they quit this room and the recording is will generate.
Awesome. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
Thank you, Dylan. Have a
Cool. Thanks,
good day.
everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for having us, guys. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It
Take
was a
care,
great
guys.
conversation.
It was well hosted, Dylan. Good work, man.
Cheers. We're starting back up our podcast, so I might reach out to you sometime in the near future to be a guest.
Sure, man. Yeah, that would be awesome. Sorry about our community maybe being a bit over the top. I was just seeing some of the comments. Some of these guys are very, very passionate. So feel like yeah. But yeah, would be great, man. Definitely let me know.
No worries. I think anybody here has witnessed what a passionate group of individuals are like. Sometimes we get irrational messages from token holders as well, so it's not a problem at all.
Yeah, no, awesome. But yeah, no, really enjoyed that, guys. This is, I think, the first time we've kind of done anything like this because we're an anonymous project. But I really enjoyed it, and I think our community took it really well. And I think the more we collaborate, work-wise, and also with the Neo community, I think it's going to be beneficial for both parties, really.
Absolutely. Thanks for dipping your toes into the online communication platform, and thanks, Sam, for inviting me to host this great panel. It was a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
All right. Have a good
Thank
one.
you,
Bye.
guys.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.